So now in Eclipse, if you go into the project, let's see what we have done so far. It's important to review and make sure everything's clear to you. So if you go to week 7, lab 1, so this basically the same projects. And in that project there, let me just close all the classes here. In that project there, we actually got 3 classes. So the main 2 classes we have discussed so far were the course class and also the student record class. Okay. In the course class, we actually got a name, number of credits, and also if the course is mandatory or not, and also a letter grade for the course. Okay, and we have a single constructor there. You can see over there we are trying to initialize 3 of the 4 attributes there. We try to initialize the name, the credits, and also if that's mandatory or not. The only one that's left unspecified is the letter grade. And as we learned in today's lecture, in this case, letter grade is actually a string. If it is uninitialized, it will be assigned implicitly the default value, which is none, right? That's something we learned today. I would like to show you something here, okay? So now, if we simply try to go to, okay, that's the course. If you go to your tester, so you must have some test cases there. For example, if you go to the tester, you can see that over here, we have course, CSE114 for gym, 214, and also physics 131. So we got 3 courses. You can see over there, the 3 courses there, they got different names, they got also different number of credits, and also whether they're mandatory or not. In this case, only the physics is optional, let's say. Conceptually, this is what you should think about using the diagram. Let me show you the diagram now. So if you see that course gym. Okay, that's the diagram. So when you try to run this at runtime, so we got 3 objects there. We got 3 objects there. You can see the first object is CSE114 for gym. It actually is a variable that points to an object in the memory as we said in the class today. And you can see all the 3 objects there, they got the same attributes. They got name, credits, it's mandatory, and also letter grade. You can see for all of them, for example, in these 2 here, the letter grade here simply points to none because the constructor there does not initialize the letter grade, right? That's why it points to none. And for other attributes here, you can see the name for CSE114 for gym. It actually points to a string object of CSE114. On the other hand, the CSE214 for gym, yes, the name points to another string over here, which is CSE214. And it's mandatory here. You can see this one is true, and for this one here, if I scroll down a little bit, it will simply be false. Okay, false here. Okay, that's how you should think of the object creations. And you should also know how to do this in Eclipse. Let's try to do that quickly. If you want to see how the objects look like, you have to set up the breakpoints. So on Eclipse, if you can put a breakpoint over here, right before we start creating the 3 course objects, okay, over there. So if you go for run and then debug as Java application. If you do that and allow that, and now we are now stopped at line number 5. It's right before we try to create the CSE114 for gym, right before that. Okay, the object is not there yet. Okay, and you can see under variables, there's nothing there. However, if we try to do step over, okay, if you say step over, you're going to see there's a new object here called CSE114 for gym. If you expand it, you will see its mandatory has been set to true. It's not false anymore. The false will be the default value, but since we set it to be true. The letter grade has not been initialized yet, so which means you have the default value. Also the name and also the number of credits has been set to 4 as opposed to the default value is 0. Okay, now we are now in line number 6. Okay, another thing I would like to show you. In this line over here, we are just about to create another object of type course, CSE214 for gym. Let's say we would like to see how the constructor actually works internally. What you can do is at this line here, you can say rather than step over, I'm going to say step into. If I say step into, now I'm going to change from tester into the course class. If I say step into, so now I'm now in the constructor of the course class. You can see over here, right? And then if you actually see under the variables, you can see now we actually got things to be assigned for this particular initialization. We're going to say that the course we try to assign now will be 214, 4 credits, it is mandatory, and etc. Right? You can see if we say step over again, you're going to have line number 10. We're going to assign the name to be the new name, CSE114, and also number of credits to be 4, and it's mandatory to be true, etc. Okay, that's something you're supposed to actually see from your debugger, just to see how the constructor works. If you step over again, you'll see you go back to here, the tester. So now you can see now we are right. If you step over again, now you're right before creating the instance of the physics class 131. Okay, you will see if you step into the constructor again, you're going to see we're trying to create a new instance using different argument values. Yes.
Can you go back to the course, please?
Yes. What about it?
I missed some parts because of the error.
Oh, okay. So you're trying to assign values there.
Okay,
Good, good. Okay, so that's something you're supposed to know. I think later on for your second assignments, you're really supposed to know how to set up the attributes and how to see the attribute values in the debugger. Okay. Okay, that's how you're supposed to do. Let me just close the debugger here, and let me just go back and continue to review. So that one's about the course. So you can see the course is very easy, and also we have a change grade mutator. So this method here is called a mutator because the return type is simply void. So mutator always has a return type void. If you have something that has a return type that's not void, that's called accessor. Okay. So you have change grade, which will change your letter grade to be some grade as a parameter value. You can see now you have the new grade over here. Let me just go to another class, student record. So this class is slightly bigger. So this class here, student record, we got many attributes there. So we got student ID, first name, last name, program of study, year of study, expected year of graduation. And the attributes we focused on last time was this registered courses last time, which had simply an array. That's what we did last time. I would like to show you some diagram today, actually just to review all the points, but you're also supposed to see the full story back in the video on Thursday. Okay? Now, let's have a look. You can see now in the constructor of the student record class, we are trying to initialize this many attributes there. You can see we are trying to assign the student ID to be the parameter, and also assign the first name to be the parameter value here, and last name, etc. What's going to happen if I simply do the following? If I simply leave the body of this constructor just empty, which means I'm not trying to initialize any attribute values. And all the attributes values will be uninitialized and implicitly assigned to their default values. That's what's going to happen. Okay. So if I can show you some diagram here, if you simply do that, and if you try to initialize some course, this will be how it looks like. Not this one. It would be this one here. So have a look at this. So now this would be what happened if you try to use that constructor with a new with empty body. So here, let's say for example, you have a course for the course record for gym. You can see everything has got their default value. For example, student ID is integer, so it has default value 0. And also first name and last name, they are strings, so default value will be nulls. And also program of study is also string, so that will be null. Year of study is integer, so and also here year of graduation will be 0 as well. So this is what's going to happen when you have empty body of the constructor. You create the objects, but everything for the attribute will be default value. Okay. Let's verify this in Eclipse. If you go back to Eclipse, and then let's go to the tester. Okay, we'll keep this body here empty. If you go back to your tester here, let's just go to one place where we try to set up the record. Let's say here, we have a record for Jim, and also we set his student number to be this number here, and then first name to be Jim, last name to be Davis, and then he's a first year student, and he is expected to graduate 2020. So let's put a breakpoint over here, okay? And let me remove the previous one, okay? Let's do that. And now remember, if you go back to student record there, the constructor now is simply just empty, okay? Which means somehow all the argument values will be ignored. They are not going to be used. Okay, let's see if that's really the case. Go back to tester and then do debug again. So now we are stopped here. So right before we try to use the student record constructor. So now let's do the step into again business. So now rather than saying step into step over, we're going to say step into. If you do that, so now we are now in the student record class. Over there, you can see there's nothing there to actually do any changes to the attribute values. Oh, so one thing to draw your attention to. So you can see now we do have all the argument values shown there. So we have this student number here, Jim, Davis, 1, and 2020. But somehow, doesn't matter if you have the correct argument values or not. If you have no correct assignments there from line 13, to actually assign properly to the attribute values, there's no use. So if you simply say step over, okay, so this is the last line, line 14 there is the last line of the constructor. If you go further, step over, so now go further again. So now you are in line 25 here. So line 25 is right after you have created an instance for Jim. So now if you look at how Jim looks like, that's exactly what I show you in the diagram. Let me double check. You can see over here, for the for Jim here, you see we have everything that is set to be their default values because the constructor was simply empty. We haven't initialized it to any values yet, although we did pass some argument values. But because the constructor is empty, so there's nothing useful done there. Questions? Good. Okay, so that's point number 1. And let me just go back. And then I'll switch back to Java. And I'll go back to student record here. And then I will just undo. So this will be the proper changes I'm supposed to make. So you can see the proper changes here. If you try to do all these, especially the registered courses, as we discussed last time, you're supposed to initialize that to be, let's say, an array of size 30. Okay, that's something we discussed. Okay, assuming that you're not going to take more than 30 courses, and the diagram is going to look like this. Okay, it's going to look like that. Okay, so this diagram here, you can see that basically the same object structure, basically the same. But now you see Jim points to an object here of type student record here, but student ID has now been set up properly rather than just 0, the default value. And also the first name and last name, and also program of study, rather than pointing to null, but now they really point to the correct string objects. And also, most importantly, you see the registered courses here. They actually point to an array over here rather than just null. Right, Amin? Okay. And however, you see, because the student has not registered any courses yet, so that's why, although we have 30 slots in the array, but each one of them is pointing to nowhere, right? No course just yet. That's why we actually designed a method called register course for the class. Okay, so let's see how we can improve the class such that we can assign course objects to here. Okay, let's go back and see what we did. Okay, so now let's go back, and now let's see. So this is the method we wrote before. Okay, so this version is slightly improved from the one on Wednesday. So when I was doing the Thursday lab session, actually I tried to do a slightly more sophisticated version. I'll go over it with you. So now the signature is basically the same. So we are trying to define a mutator method here. That's why it returns void. Does not return anything. We just try to change the attribute value. Okay? And now we say we want to register a course, and then the input parameter, there's only one input parameter, course C. So we are trying to register a course for this particular student. And we're saying, since we only allow up to 30 courses to be registered, so if currently, so we also try to maintain a counter. Also, that's something we learned last time. We also maintain a counter there. And remember, the counter was actually defined at the class level, right? If you didn't declare that at the class level, the value of that is not going to be accumulated. Okay? That's something I'll show you maybe in a moment, but I just want to go over that quickly. So at the class level, you declare this counter here, and then in the constructor, you can either initialize that to be 0, or it would just be default value 0. These are the same, so it doesn't matter. But now, if you go into this mutator here, let's see the definition here. So it's a selection here. We say if the counter somehow is larger than or equal to 30, that means the course, you're trying to register into the course when the course is full. So that's why you print out some error message. Otherwise, the counter is simply less than 30. That means you can register the current course. In that case, you will simply assign the course. So counter actually counts how many courses you have registered so far. And then you will assign that to the right spot to be C. And then also increment the counter each time you call the method. Okay? And one thing you should really note. What if I do the following? Remember, I actually declare the counter here at the class level. What if I remove that, and then, get rid of that. What's going to happen if I put the following? Okay.
That's what I was talking about. You have to initialize.
Yeah, so sometimes they complain. In some cases, they won't. So it's tricky. Yeah. So I would say in general, try to initialize everything. Yeah. Okay. So now, this is a question for you. Okay. That's something you're supposed to know. You follow the video. Okay. So now have a look at this method here. So I declare the counter here as part of the method. I initialize it to be 0, and then I say, if the counter is larger than or equal to 30, I will say the course is full, so you cannot register anymore. Otherwise, I will assign the new course to the correct spot, and then increment the counter to be 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Now, you should really tell me what's wrong with this method
The counter
here.
should be outside the.
How come?
Because every time it goes back, it's initialized to 0 again and again, so it won't really increment.
So does everybody else follow? So this is a very important point. Armin, do you follow? Are you sure? Good. Jeannie, are you following? Really? Good. Okay, so please make sure you follow. And let me just demonstrate this to you again. So that's exactly the point. So every time when you're trying to call the same method here, you will always execute the same block of code. Because remember, a method is simply a named block of code you're trying to call over and over again. Every time when you're trying to call the same block, you're always going to initialize counter to be 0 again and again and again. So it's not going to have any accumulated effects that you're expecting. Let's double check. Okay. Once we are okay with this, then we are done with the review, and then we'll do a small task together. So let's do the following here. So if you go back to tester there, and then let me get rid of that. So actually here I got a series of registered courses. I got 31 in total because I want to make sure it would print out the correct error message for me. Okay, so you can follow the video, everything's there. So let me just do one for you here. So can I just put a breakpoint over here, just right before registering for the first course? Okay, if I say debug, okay, so now I'm stopped here right before I try to register the first course for gym. Now, if you go to variables, and you can see variables here. Okay, so now let me just organize this a little bit better. Okay. So now we'll stop here, and then for variables, I would like to show you that we are talking about gym. You can see now under gym we should have. Okay, so let me go into the register course. I think that's what I need to do. So now we would like to see how the register course is executed in order to update the attributes. So I'll go step into rather than step over. So I would say step into here. And now I'm now in the body of the method for register course. Okay. So now you can see the first line it is always going to execute is to initialize a counter with value 0. Okay. Let's execute that. And then you will see that we do have a counter over there that's of value 0. Okay, let me scroll this up, down a little bit. Okay, and now 0 larger than or equal to 30 is simply false, which means the course list is not full yet. Okay, so we don't have to print out any error message. So if you go over that, so now you can see that we are trying to assign the 0 position in the register courses to be the course, which is the first position there. That's correct. And then after we have done that, you will see that for gym, you can see the register courses there. You can see now the 0th position, the first one there is indeed the course we just added. So that's the CSE114 there. Okay. You can see after that line there, we are trying to increment the value for counter to 1, hoping that next time when we try to register a new course, that should be stored in index 1 rather than 0. That's sort of the intention. Okay. If we do that, so you can see now the counter, let's see what's the value for the counter. So now the value for the counter has been incremented from 0 to 1. Okay. So far so good? Okay. Now let's step over again. Let's see what's going to happen. So now we have just executed the first course to be registered. So now we are stopped at right before registering the second course. Okay, let's go into the same method again and let's see what happened. If you go into that course, and now you can see now we are stopped at line 22 over there. But now you can see the current value for counter. If you move your mouse over, the current value for counter is actually not 1. So why is that the case? I thought we just incremented that to 1, but now it's not showing anything. Okay. The reason was because you can see here the counter here is actually very. Let me just go here and show you. The reason is because the counter here is declared under this method here, which means it is only visible within this method here. But now, when we are stopped at this point here, it's right before we try to declare this variable. That's why it does not exist yet. As opposed to, if we declare this counter here as the class attribute, then it will be always visible. Okay? In this case, if we try to do that, this line here, if you say step over, if you do that, you will see counter value will be equal to 0. However, this is actually the second course we are trying to register. But counter somehow is not equal to 1. But now it has been reinitialized to be 0. So there's something wrong here, right? So that's the thing you should really notice. Okay. So the cause of this problem here is really because we should not have declared counter as a local variable inside the register course method. You should have declared as a class attributes so that it can be incremented. Okay, so that's sort of the issue here. So you should really try to understand. And so the correct fix would be if you go above and put it there. So that's the fix. Okay, any questions so far?
It's like a while loop, right?
Huh?
It's like a while loop.
What do you mean a while loop?
You know, it's like a loop.
No, it's not a loop. It's a method.
Seems like a loop. I mean, like it's similar to a loop.
No.
If it's in the main method. Because it's like going over and over and over. Just like the
Yeah,
content.
but try not to think it's a loop. That way you may confuse yourself. Just think that it's a named block of code there, which you can call at any time you like. Yeah. Every time you call the same block of code, the same block of code will be executed with different argument values. Okay, the exercise I would like to do today, I'm going to do a small part of that with you, and the rest is up to you. Okay. Let's say we would like to now to register several courses for Jim, for example. Okay. Let me just do the following, and then we would like to somehow calculate his average, the grade point average GPA. Let's just go to the tester. Okay. So let's not confuse the matter. So I'll just delete this here. So could you please just make sure, so we have a Jim being a student record. I think that's what you had. Let's make sure you have 3 courses here. You got CSE114, CSE214, and Physics 131. Make sure you have these 3 courses. And then let's say we would like to register these courses for Jim. Okay, so CSE114 and Physics 131. Okay, so make sure you have these 3 lines here. Okay, so make sure you register Jim for these 3 courses. CSE 114, 214, and Physics 131. Let's do these first. Okay. Okay, so do these 3 lines, and then we're going to do something just to verify something. If you put a breakpoint around the last registration, put a breakpoint there. In my case, line 27. Okay. In your case, it might be slightly different. So now we have registered 3 courses for Jim. 3 courses. Okay. Okay. Let's now just run a debugger. And then now we'll stop here. Okay. And now simply say step over. If you say step over, so now we are at line 29, which means we have executed the 3 registrations for Jim. So now if you go to the variables, and now if you go to Jim, and then go to register courses there, you can see, let me just maximize this. You can see we got 3 courses. And then for the first course, it's CSE 114. And for the second course, it's 214. And for the third course, it's Physics 131. Okay. Now, what's their letter grades? That's my question. You can see, because so far we have only initialized those 3 course objects, like what I showed you before. Let me just show you again. You can see the 3 course objects there. You can see every attribute has been initialized except for the letter grade. So the letter grade for each one of them is simply pointing to null, because we have not set them up correctly yet. To do that, we have to call the mutator method, right? Okay. So now, that's something I would like you to first verify that we did correctly register the 3 courses for Jim. Okay. So now, 2 things we got to do. I'll do the first thing with you. How do we say, now let's say we would like to assign some grades to these 3 courses for Jim. How do we do that? Okay. I'll give you 1 minute or 2 minutes to think about this, but I'll give you a hint. So you can stop the debugger here. And then let's go back to Java here. So what I would like to do is to say, how do I say Jin obtains B minus for CSE 114? How do you translate this line here into Java? How do you do that? How do you do that? Okay, let me show you a diagram here, and then remember that in the course object, in the course class there, you do have a mutator method there for you to change the letter grade for the course, which is called change grade, line 16. Right? It's a mutator there. Good. Yeah. Okay, let me also give you another hint. If you look at the diagram here, let me show you. Okay. So now, by looking at the diagram here, you can see we have Jim, student record object here, and somehow the register courses points to an array. And then the first element in the array is simply the CSE114 course we're talking about. Now, somehow, we would like to set the letter grade of this object, rather than being null, it has to be set to be A+. So now how do we do that? Okay, think about that. I'll give you about 1 or 2 minutes. There are 2 ways to do it. 2 ways.
You set up
Sorry, say that again.
You set up a new letter grade.
Yes, how do you set up a new letter grade? Hints for you, since you got a mutator of that, how do you call a mutator? Remember, if you go back to your course class, you actually have a mutator called change grade. But now, how do you call that method?
You use the name and then dot.
What name? Very good. You're going to use a dot. Very good. You would say something dot change grade.
CSE114.
That's one way. Okay, so you say somehow if you say okay, very good. That's the first way to do it. Very good. So let me go back to Eclipse and then let me show you. So you can say if you go for student record here, tester, what I meant. So you can either say CSE114 for Jin, okay, that's the course objects. You can say dot. As I said today briefly, the dot is actually a binary operator. So the left-hand side should be an object. The right-hand side should be either an attribute, mutator, or accessor. So you would say change grade, right? And then, so let's say B minus. Okay, that's one way. Very good. There's yet another way.
First grade.
So say that again. I didn't catch you.
We have Eon. Just we can mutate it or we can just put another grade on top of it.
No, actually, you gotta mutate. You simply cannot put it on top. So somehow, you see, the first approach would simply say, because certainly we want to change the contents of this object here. Now we know that course CSE114 for Jin points to there. That's why we can say CSE114 for Jin dot change grade. In some way, as long as we have a path, as long as we have a way to actually go to this object here, we can do the dot. Okay. Let me give you a hint here. Can you kind of see in the diagram here? Is there a way we can also reach this object here? So certainly the shortest way to reach there would be CSE114 for Jin. Aha. So everyone sees that? So that's another way. So basically the idea is you can see we can, so somehow we need a way to actually get to the objects. One way to get there is simply say CSE114 for Jin. So this way you can just go follow the arrow and go there. Okay? Another way to do it is say, let's say we start from here. So we can say Jin dot register courses, which will go to this array here. So we are not up here. But how do we get to here? Say that should be the 0th element of that array. And then we go here, and then we can say dot set the grade. Okay, that's so there are 2 approaches here. Both will work. Both will work. Okay, let me show you both. So you only need one of them. Did you follow? Good. Okay, let's try this. So, okay, so basically this is approach 1. Approach 1, and let's have approach 2. Approach 2, we can actually go from Jim. So Jim dot register courses, and now we know that CSE114 was the first course of Jim. So you can say go to the first one, nothing new here. But now think about Jim.register courses 0. This one here will simply give us the first course in the array, right? If you see the diagram again, that will actually give us. So first of all, you say Jim dot register courses will give you this array here. If you say this array here, square brackets, 0, it will give us this object here. So now, given that object, how do you actually commutator? Use a dot again. Okay. So here you would say dot, and then you would say change the grade, B minus. Approach 1 or approach 2, both of them will work. Both of them. Okay. Of course, usually it's really quite hard to imagine unless you draw a diagram like what I drew. So that's fine. So you can see everything's recorded, so you're really going to study that yourself as well. Okay, so now that's about it. So we can just use one of them. Let me just use approach 1 only. Approach 2 is something there for you to also study. So now let's say I do the following. And let's say I want to set, can you also set the CSE114 for Jim to be, let's say, A for me? How do you set it? I want to set the second course that Jim is registered for to be A. He does slightly better for that course. Huh? Oh, let's say first method. Let's stick to the first one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. For Jim, dot change grade, right? To A. Let's say A. Yeah, let's say A. Okay, very good. And now, how do you do the equivalent line using approach 2? Change grade, very good. You can see now the only thing we're going to change will be 1 rather than 0, because now we're getting access to the second element rather than the first one. Okay. I also try to present this again. Maybe hopefully you've seen some slides on Friday, but again, it's a very important point to note. Okay, let's do one more for Jim. Let's say he does very badly for physics. Let's say he got C minus. Okay, let's do physics. 131 for Jim. Dot change grade. Let's say C minus. Okay. Okay, let's say we do the following. And can we just put a breakpoint now rather than here? Okay, please put a breakpoint right after, actually put it here, line 35. Right before we set the letter grade for the third course. Okay, now we want to verify that Jim now got the grades for all the courses. So now it will be the time to calculate the GPA for him. So that will be the task for today. Okay, let's go to debug over here. And now, let's see that. So now we are stopped at line 35. So right before we actually change the grade for the last course. So let's just step over. After that, let's see the variables here. So you can see Jim and also registered courses. You have 0, 1, 2, and 3. So let's just expand each one of them. Each one of them is a course. Okay, so now you can see that over there, you can see the letter grade for CSE114 is B minus, and the letter grade for CSE214 is A, and the letter grade for the physics 131 is C minus. Okay, that's set up properly. So now, what I would like you to do is the following. Let's say we would like to support an accessor method in the student record class. Let me just go there first, and I'll tell you what I want. Let me go to, just close the debugger and go to Java. Let's go to student record class. Okay, so now, let me just put a comment here, and then it will do it for me. We would like to support an accessor. Accessor there. So let's say calculates the grade point average of the students. Okay. So which means it's going to return some GPA. Let's say GPA will be double, according to the following scheme. So let's say we got A. Let's say A will be 8, for example. 8.0. So that's the mapping. So you got also B minus would be, let's say 7.5, or maybe B first, sorry. B would be 7.0. B minus would be 6.5. Okay, C would be 6. Also, C minus would be 5.5. Let's say that's it. Okay, let's say according to this marking scheme here, so whenever you see the letter grade A, that should be an 8.0. Whenever you see B, that should be 7.0, and then etc. So now, in the case of Jin, he has got, remember he got A minus, right? We put A minus as well. So let's put also A minus 7.5. 7.5. Okay. Remember for Jin, he actually got A minus, he got B minus, and he got C minus. So that means somehow you have to see the letter grade, and then to use some selection statement there to say, well, if you got A minus, then of course you get 7.5. And then you got B minus, you get 6.5. You got C minus, you get 5.5. Add it all together, and then calculate the average and return the result. Okay. Try to do this accessor here. Okay. I'll leave that to you. So that's a very important method to do. I will give you the solution at the end, but I will encourage you to try to do that by yourself. Okay. I'll give you what's the time now? Okay. I'll give you 10 minutes to 10 to 15 minutes to do this by yourself, and then I'll give you the solution after that.
For the accessor, do we always have to return?
Yes, you always have to. So idea about accessor is you'll do some computation and return the result later. Okay, try to struggle with this method here. This it's not that complicated. You just need some selection statement inside the accessor. Okay, I'll come back to you in about 15 minutes, and then we'll call it a day. Also, after you have done the accessor, try to write some test cases for that.